Welcome to Merlin Public Media's Our Local Music Show. It's not much of a title, but it says everything we need to say. Here at Merlin Public Media, we define a local band as a band that writes, records, produces, and most importantly, performs their own music. If you are a band or know of a band that might like to be featured here, please contact us at mpmradio01@gmail.com. Thank you. This is Mike Merlin Means of Merlin Public Media, and we have a new episode of our local music show today. And with us is
Justin Brown.
And what do you go by in your solo act?
My solo act is called Cosmic Paradigm, Paradigm.
And how often do people mispronounce that one?
Not too bad. Surprisingly, if they meet me and I tell them, it's kind of a one time they hear it, they got it. But if it's like they're reading a flyer, it's kind of like paradigm. So that's always fun.
I'm sure it is. So tell me about your music.
Yeah. Well, geez, I don't know where to begin. So I started playing guitar. What's up?
Begin at the beginning.
Yep. So moved to Kingman, Arizona around 2010, late 2009 from Burbank, California. And my father, I was raised by a single parent. And growing up in California, I was exposed to a lot of music, mostly hip hop, rap, like West Coast rap music. And, it was just kind of the part of the culture, especially where I was at, where I would listen to that all the time. But my dad was the old school guy, always be listening to like The Police, Sting, Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd. So he kind of got me more exposed to like the old school rock, proggy kind of stuff. And even like I always felt weirded out with my dad because while everybody else would be playing like today's hits on the radio, whether it be like pop or, your current rock thing that's trending at the time on the radio, he'd still be listening to like classical music, even like the ambient stuff that in my material that I add on to when we moved here, every Sunday he'd play there is this 1 hour, sometimes longer segment on NPR radio called Hearts of Space.
Yes.
Yeah. And he played that every Sunday night. And I, whether I wanted to or not, listened to it for years. That's pretty much what I would just hear throughout the house or pass out to. And secretly, it was like, I kind of dig this stuff. It's pretty cool. Like, but, going to school with all my friends, talking about the new Eminem single and stuff like that. It's like, well, check out this ambient dude doing this crazy stuff with a cello. Like it didn't really work out too well trying to be cool with the kids.
Most of what your father listened to sounds like what I listen to.
Yes.
Classical, prog, yes, Rush, Floyd, and electronica.
Yes. Yeah, and it's so weird because like especially primarily being a metal musician, I've always going through. I'm kind of fast forwarding here. When I discovered metal for the first time, Metallica, then obviously it evolved to later on even more crazier, heavier stuff than what we have now. Throughout that journey of time as a musician and stuff, and discovering new bands and stuff, I've always just like, man, why hasn't anybody really tried mixing a blend of like ambience, atmospherics with metal? And it sounds kind of like an oxymoron, like it wouldn't work, but there's a very few handful of bands out there that are doing it. One of them that does it perfectly, in my personal opinion, is a band called Fallujah. The first time I seen them live, I was just like, how have I never listened to this? It literally was the formula that I've been looking for in a band for such a long time. But yeah, so now going back, so I've always,
Go ahead, man.
Yeah, sorry about this.
Yeah,
I've always wanted to play guitar before moving to Arizona, and my dad saw that, but unfortunately, not an unfortunate kind of thing, but my dad was kind of a really kind of hard controlling, parent, as one should be. Like, all this as a parental advisor, you can't listen to this. Like, all this looks satanic, can't listen to that. So he kind of like really tried to morph me into like his taste of like, art, so to speak, and as far as music goes. So he really pushed it on to me to go learn how to play the violin. And when I moved to Kingman, there was like two teachers here that offered violin lessons, and he got me enrolled in one of them. And I played the violin for about a year. And I'll be honest, like I really wasn't digging it. Like there were some aspects of it that was cool, but again, it was like I was this young kid in middle school. Like I didn't want to like tell my friends, oh yeah, I got violin lessons today because like that would seem totally uncool.
Oh yeah.
So and the teacher that she was a really good teacher. She obviously was kind of like pursuing her whole thing in music as well, and as far as college goes. So like I don't want to say her heart wasn't into teaching me, but it was definitely like it just didn't seem like it was working out for her and I. It was just like to her, I mean, I'm not speaking for her, but it almost seemed like I was just that paycheck every other week. And then for me, it was just like I'm only here because my dad's making me be here.
Uh,
Given that, I was like, I didn't just completely waste my time during that. So then he found this other teacher that taught privately from her house, and I did that for about half a year. And she actually was, if I remember correctly, she actually taught violin and cello at Juilliard many years ago. Yeah, but me being a freshman in high school, no care in the world about this thing, I'm just like, okay, that's cool, whatever. Like, you ever heard of Megadeth? You know what I mean? Like, it just being like kind of stupid about it. But the cool thing about this teacher was it's like when I was there, like she would make sure that I would leave her house with a new lesson or a new skill. And looking back now, it's like, man, I really, really wish like I paid a lot of attention to the stuff that she taught, because there was a lot of stuff, whether I knew it or not, that when I started playing guitar, like whether it's just the way I hold my chords, or the way I look through the fretboards, is just like, wow, that's a lot of stuff from those year and a half worth of violin lessons that actually transferred over to playing guitar that I never would have even thought of, even just through like repetitious of skill lessons, and just even like, I don't want to say music theory, but like they just a lot of things that beginners would have problems trying to figure out, chord progressions or note progressions. To me, I picked up on it really quick within the first year of playing guitar. And yeah, it's just weird how all that stuff interconnects. So now fast forward all these years later, it's like I look at like the piano or almost any string instrument as like, if you can master like one of those things and know the notes, frets and stuff, like, the first 12 notes, then you pretty much got to figure it out. All you got to do now is just like the actual repetitious of that specific instrument. But
practice.
Yep, exactly.
So how do we get to metal?
So there's a local band that, believe it or not, like I love those guys. They're still going, killing it to this day. My very first band, Gira, out of Kingman, Arizona, Ghera. Yeah. So I actually met. Well, this is kind of weird now thinking about, because the lineups has changed so much, and even so, the band was founded by the two brothers. One of the brothers has always been the drummer, Josh, and then his older brother, Jacob, who is now just primarily guitar and backup vocals. He used to do guitar, rhythm guitar, and main vocals, but now they have a full-time vocalist and stuff. So he's kind of like taking it back now. But him and I used to train at a dojo together, doing martial arts and stuff. And we've done it. And we were like the two guys that actually trained with each other at the same one dojo for like over a decade. And like hanging out with them and like, practicing with them after class and training them, just to get ready to go our next, advance our next belts and all that stuff like that. I'd always come over and hang out, and he'd be wearing like a Metallica shirt or an Iron Maiden shirt or a Megadeth shirt. I'm just like, man, those shirts are cool. What is that? And yeah, Jacob would just tell me, he's like, oh, you never heard of this and that? I'm like, well, I've heard of Iron Maiden. Before I moved here from California, I was a skater. So I skated all throughout Burbank, and I was reading Thrasher magazine, and there was like top 10 albums of like the year or month or whatever the heck. And Peace of Mind by Iron Maiden was on there. I just remember that album cover of Eddie being in a straitjacket. I'm like, that's the coolest looking thing ever. Like, if I ever find that album, I'm buying it. So then I bought it at my local Hastings, and like, yeah, Iron Maiden changed like I would not be playing guitar if I never discovered Iron Maiden.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, Iron Maiden and Metallica. Jacob actually, he burned me. What was this, back when like LimeWire and Napster and all that stuff was still a thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, he burned me like Master of Puppets, Ride the Lightning, Kill 'Em All, and Black Album. And I just remember coming home, popping in Master of Puppets one day, and was just like, okay, I don't know how I've made it through like 12 years of my life never hearing any of this. Like, this is amazing. And then it just advanced from there. And then he got me my first Megadeth album at my 13th birthday. And it just, snowballed from there. And then next thing you know, so during all this, I'm still playing violin. And I'm like, man, I want to be in a band. I want to learn how to play guitar. I want to, rock out and all that cool stuff. And well, what year was this? It was right before I hit middle school. I think I was like in 5th grade. I kept asking my dad, I go, hey, any chance you give me a guitar? He's like, no, like his word from his mouth, not until you quote unquote master the violin will I'll get you a next instrument that you can again master. And I'm like, oh great, I'm never getting one now. So the majority of 5th grade, I saved my lunch money for the entire year to when the last day of school of 5th grade, I told my dad, we went to the local Hastings and I'm like, hey, so I have like this fat stack of 1s and 5s. You think you can go in there and like get me that guitar I showed you that other day? And for whatever weird reason, he didn't question where I got all this money from. I think I told him I was selling like Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh cards or something okay. Funny like that. And he believed me, went in there, got me this like I'm not a First Act, but not like a Fender or Squire, but like just Stratocaster style cheap starter guitar.
Sure.
And yeah, just from there I just started jamming on it like 2, 3, 4 hours a day. Didn't know what the heck I was doing. And then Jacob from Gira, he had this single speaker, like a single 2x12 like Fender amp, and he was like, here, take this, here's a chord, like jam at it, let me know if you need help with anything. I was like, all right, cool. A couple months go by, I kept going to the local library, downloading guitar tablature. Tried figuring out how to read that, and then took me I think like 2 weeks to realize I was reading it upside down. And then I literally printed out like a whole bunch of Iron Maiden songs I wanted to learn, and then I started figuring it out. I'd watch like the DVDs and tried copying what they're doing on stage at the Rock in Rio DVDs. And then next thing you know, I told Jacob, I go, hey man, like, is it cool if one of these days I come over and, jam with you and your brother? He's like, yeah, sure. Why not? And yeah, the rest was history. They were like, holy crap. Like, you can play Maiden songs. I'm like, well, am I playing it right? I don't know. Like, this is what this thing told me. I don't know. And next thing you know, we're like learning each other's songs. He's teaching me how to play Devil's Island by Megadeth and Raining Blood by Slayer. And then next thing you know, it was like every single weekend I just be going over there and jamming with, him and his brother on drums. And it was cool because like his parents and stuff too, because it was all the setup was in the living room and they loved it. They weren't giving us too much hassle at that point. They just loved seeing that, we were doing something, together. We had fun. And yeah, I was in Gira in 2008, and I think, I was with those guys for a long time. I want to say it was kind of on and off-ish 2010, but then like I officially left 2010. 2010, I graduated. No, you know what? We started jamming around 2006, but I wasn't really in Gira until 2008.
Okay.
So then, 2010, I quit Gira. Just stupid stuff. It was like around, I was just graduating, and a couple of things with the band that I saw and a couple other bands that we've like played with. I've seen them at shorter, like as a band shorter, of what's the right word I'm trying to pick? Like they've done more in a small amount of time than we have. And I kind of really wanted to, try to push and do something else. But, to them, like they just were kind of comfortable where they were at, or they just didn't have the ability or the finances to like move forward as, those other bands
can stop you cold.
What's up?
Finances can stop you cold.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And even throughout all those years, just from all the gear and stuff that, his parents helped out on, even for me, like if there was something like, oh, my cord's broken or whatever, like his mom helped me buy, cords, helped me buy strings. Heck, she even helped me buy a tube amp for me one time. So
Ooh.
Like, yeah, I mean, it was a cheap, I'm not going to say cheap, but like given what was available at the time, it was like the cheapest option. It was like an old PV Windsor tube amp. And one of my best friends that's in Nashville right now, I think he still has that thing. But yeah, it was just, that was a cool, fun time. But, for myself, I was just like, I wanted to go do something else. And plus, like 2010, I'm out of high school. I'm jobless, like I had to go get a job and start, figuring out life. So time, finances, and all that stuff was kind of like in the way. But during that time, Dalton and Ty, that's now in Oppressor God right now. They're like the founding of Oppressor God. So those two guys I met, Jacob and Josh and all of them way back then. They were all like mutual friends. Like I probably came across them, met them like maybe 2 or 3 times throughout like the 4 years I jammed with Gira. And I think we played one house show together one time, and I was just amazed by Dalton and Ty's ability. I mean, it's like first off, seeing a guitar player play as crazy technical as he did, upside down Jimi Hendrix style, and then seeing a bass player play a 6-string bass with his fingers, with all 8 of his fingers, like at like 230, 240 BPMs. Just, I was like, what is this? And how are these guys doing this? Like, so yeah, I started coming over. Well, actually, how did it end up working out? I think they came over my house. They always started coming over my house with like a bottle of Mickey's. And we would just
been there, done that.
Yep. We would just sit down. He would either show me some cool like death metal bands or whatever that I've never heard of before, and he would start showing me some of his stuff. I was just interested. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? And then he would just break it down. And thankfully, on my end, I can learn by ear. Because like if it was strictly I had to watch him show me the notes, it would take a million years for me to figure it out just because of him playing upside down. And it was just
yeah.
So like throughout all the years, like I think us 3, me, Dalton, and Ty, like we've been like the formula that's always been able to like we know each other's styles now, and like we know each other's like strengths and weaknesses, and like we can accommodate and stuff like that. But yeah, he started showing me all that crazy, the sweep arpeggios and the tapping and like super like intricate like riffs that weren't just power chords or whatever. And yeah, just from there on, I just kind of soaked that all in. And then he, at the time, he was never interested in having a second guitar player for his project. And then we were just hanging out so much. I think one day he was just like, well, let's just try it out and, go from there. And next thing you know, I was in our first band together. So that was called She Was Dead When I Got There. I think only a few people only a few people remember that name, but I mean it was a pretty easy name to remember. It's like, oh, She Was Dead When I Got There. Huh. Okay. Yeah. But yeah, we played a couple shows. That was my first time playing a lot, especially playing a lot outside of Kingman, Phoenix, California, Vegas. Like that was my first time actually like kind of experiencing, I guess you could say, like a small tour experience, and like seeing different stages, dealing with different sound people, even the whole different vibe. So that was super cool. And then unfortunately, out of respect, I'm not going to get too many details. Something unfortunate happened in around 2012, and the band just broke up pretty much. And then it was a weird part in my life where I was just kind of like, man, if this didn't work out, there's no way I'm going to ever get a chance like this to happen again. So I'm just like, screw it. I'm done with music. And this is 2012. I think I'm like barely 21. I sold all my guitars. I sold all my amps. And like, this is how dumb I was. I literally was like so done with it. Emotions were like taking over so much. I was like, here, take my Jackson Kelly. I don't even care. $100. Take my 7-string Schecter guitar. $100. First come, first serve. I just get it out of here. I'm done with this crap. The one guitar though that I still have that I did not do that with, just because I didn't have the heart to do it, was my Ibanez S series. It's a Prestige. For all you guitar nerds, Ibanez S5 470 Prestige. When I was in high school, this was the one guitar I'd always see in like Musician's Friend or Guitar Pro or Sweetwater magazine, where I was like, one day I'm going to own this guitar. And then I actually did. And then unfortunately, all that stupid stuff happened. So that guitar actually, when I knocked on Dalton's house when everything kind of like hit the fan, I told him, I go, hey man, like I'm done with music. Like, here, take my guitar. There's no value or money I can put on this thing to where I feel justified. I'd rather feel comfortable giving it to you, knowing that like you would benefit or do something with it more than I would. And he was like pretty bummed out. He was like, okay, whatever. And then we parted ways. And 2 years later, we met up again at a local show. And I think I finally got that bug again after 2 years. I went to go see a show in Vegas. Who was it? I think I saw Between the Buried and Me. I forgot who else was touring with him at the time. And then after that, one of my good friends that I'm still friends with now from middle school, believe it or not, actually, yeah, I think you've seen him. His name is Brandon. They played in that band, Shriven.
Yes.
Yeah. He was the guitar player for Shriven.
Okay.
Yeah, him and I have known each other. We still talk to each other since like middle school, so it's pretty cool. So he hit me up. He's like, "Hey, you want to go see Steve Vai in Vegas?"
Oh,
I'm like, yeah, I do.
mhm.
So when saw Steve Vai live, and like that right there, I looked at him. I go, "Dude, I want to play guitar again." Like I don't know how that dude makes the noises he makes with his guitar or how he plays. But I'm not gonna try to beat him. But he definitely gave me that that fire to like get back at it again. So right after that, shortly there was a little like metal show out by a smoke shop, and Jacob from Gear actually hit me up asking me like, "Hey, like you want to play guitar for this show?" Like I don't know why he asked me. I forgot why. We might have been drinking or something. And I said, "Yeah." I was like, "Okay, man, yeah, I'll do it." I still remember your stupid song. So yeah, we played this show in this little like alleyway at a smoke shop here in Kingman, and then sheriff's department came and busted it down, and you guys are too loud, that whole thing. And
yeah.
but I mean, it was still a fun time. Got to see old friends I used to see back when I was playing a lot more prior to the 2 years, and then Dalton and Ty were there, and I told him, I go, "Hey man, you don't by chance still have my guitar?" And he's like, "Yeah, I still got it. I figured you'd ask for it back."
Uh-huh.
So yeah, then after that, him and Ty were telling me how they were doing this thing, Oppressor God, which was I should know this by now, but I believe he got that name from it was a quote in House of a Thousand Corpses.
Okay.
Where Oppressor God came from. And yeah, he just told me, he goes like, "Hey, would you be interested in like just jamming with us with this new material stuff? It's nothing like the She Was Dead stuff. Like we're not going to be super serious about it. Like it's just getting together, have fun, just jamming some riffs. Like I don't want this to be any serious to where it's like where drama could come in, because And I was totally down for that. And yeah, Oppressor God came about. I learned a little bit, just jammed it, and we didn't have a drummer. We just had a laptop we took to like a couple local shows and even shows in Phoenix and Vegas. So I joined Oppressor God in 2014, and that was still like when we were doing that. I said we were playing with like a laptop that had like a drum machine hooked through a PA, and for whatever freaking reason, like everybody that heard it like loved it. And next thing you know, we're getting hit up from old friends from Phoenix and Vegas, like, "Hey, you want to play this show? You want to play that show?" And we play these shows, and everybody there just like, "Whoa, like this is some crazy stuff." And of course, every show, "Man, this stuff is crazy. It'd be awesome if you guys had a drummer." "Oh, cool. Do you know a drummer?" No, but it'd be cool if you had one."
Yeah, there's a bit of a drummer shortage in the Kingman area.
Oh man, yeah. It's pretty funny. There is a post I seen on a metal page where, what was it? It was like kind of the people that we all know throughout just playing shows and stuff like that, even from like signed bands. And somebody was like, just pointed out recently, like, "Man, it's crazy to think there's like 10 death metal drummers right now holding it down for like more than 10 bands." And it's true. I never thought about that. I'm sure there's more than 10 drummers holding it down, but still, like, we just came back from a show from Vegas about a month ago. It was Obscura and Veil of Nath. Obscura came down from Germany, like, and they're like,
ooh,
yeah. Have you ever heard of them?
I have not, but they came from Germany. Wow.
Yeah, those guys are like, I don't know how to explain it. It seems like they're just a bunch of like master jazz musicians that played metal for the fun of it. Like their cleanliness of how clean they play and their music, it's crazy. Like 6-string fretless bass, like crazy. It's super shredded.
Mm.
Like, I forgot where I was going with that. Oh yeah, the drummer they had, he's actually from America, and he was running double duty for one of the opening touring bands with them and them. And his name is Gabe Sieber. And just watching that guy, like, man, how did you learn like almost 20 songs? And I'm talking like every song's about minimum 220 to like maybe 240 BPM. Like maybe not that high, but still like
It's up there.
it's up there. And like hit per hit, like this guy's he's a machine. And yeah, as far as we were talking about the drummer thing, it's crazy to think like, man, they really couldn't find another drummer to fill in both spots for this tour. Like they had to hire one guy to pull double duty for a whole tour. And then immediately after that tour was over, he's drumming again. Like the guy's he's an animal. So yeah, there is a huge shortage of drummers, like not even just in Kingman, but everywhere.
Yeah, it's one of those. I don't want to say it's a make or break position, but a drummer can hold it all together or tear it all apart in a minute.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, no, I have much respect for drummers. And it's kind of weird how like the times are going now, because for Oppressor God, like we still haven't found a dedicated drummer since our drummer Kevin, he left geez, I can't even think anymore, about 3 years ago. And like it wasn't on bad terms. He just he moved out of Kingman, had a job opportunity, started a family. So like definitely like no ill will. We still keep in contact and stuff like that. But I mean, that guy, like the landmark he gave himself as a drummer, like even throughout Gabe Sieber, the guy I mentioned, it's like when people that have never known who Kevin was and have witnessed him play, whether we opened up for shows, like he's like part of that group, to where he was getting messaging from like signed legit bands that have toured overseas asking him if he could fill in for like tours and stuff. So yeah, and it's crazy, but if that's his choice, like we don't hold it against him. Like, family is definitely a very, very important thing. So
oh yeah,
for sure, I would pick that over the band as well.
Yeah, it can be a tough call. So you're still with Oppressor God?
Yeah.
Talk to the guys, see if we can get a group chat with Oppressor God on here.
Yeah, no problem. Actually, well, it's pretty cool because we've been kind of on hiatus for a little while. I mean, to be honest, we've been sitting on an EP for quite a while. I mean, it still needs some refinement here and there, but the hardest part was we just kind of like lost, besides just, obviously COVID happened. So that put a huge, like that was a lot of static to like really start making like long-term, even short-term decisions of where we're even going with any of this stuff. But we were talking, and we were considering like, cool, like who could we find if there was anybody local or even within the state that would be able to be interested, and that it could actually play our stuff. And we found a couple, but unfortunately there was a couple like either they were already in a band full time and they would have to charge, which would make sense, or there was a couple other like personal reasons why they couldn't do it. Like the interest was there, but there was just some other reasons, like, whether it be like a long distance kind of a issue or whatnot. So we kind of like, all right, let's forget finding a full-time drummer. Let's like focus to see if we can hire somebody to at least record drums for the album. And thankfully, actually, as of this weekend, we pretty much all came to agreement who we're going to hire. Nobody local, and I can't think of his actual. What, you know what? No, I think that is his real name, Robin Stone. He's a session drummer. I believe, I could be wrong, I believe he's out of Australia.
Wow.
But, yeah. And that's like primarily what he does is just session work. And it's pretty cool because we've actually hit up two drummers that weren't even in America. One of them was, I believe, was from Germany. And the cool thing about these guys that we contacted like 3 or 4 session drummers, pretty well-known ones at that. And they got back to us. We were just like, fishing around for quotes and stuff like that. And the two of them that were out of country were the ones that were like, when they didn't hear back from us from like a week, they'd follow up and be like, hey, You interested? You still wanna-" So like that's pretty cool. Like I understand, you know, either, whether they're trying to make a buck or they're actually like really interested in like putting their material down onto it. But yeah, hopefully things will get rolling this year. Again, like the music's pretty much done. And we just need to get drum tracks, and I think drum tracks, vocals, mix and master, and it's done. But like now that the whole COVID situation seems to be easing down and shows and stuff like that are starting to come back up, and I know shipping and stuff is still kind of sketchy here and there depending where you're at, but it somewhat seems to be getting back to normal.
Yeah, COVID trashed my business. You know, back when I was doing lighting and video, and it just, you know, came along. And one day I'm sitting in my studio and I keep answering the phone, and it's like, yeah, canceled, yeah, canceled, yeah, canceled. I'm just watching, you know, the phone is watching my bank account go down.
Oh, yeah, I can
And, you
imagine.
know, it's, and, you know, and a lot of bands, you know, local bands, I mean, not that I was expensive, but that's just one more bill to pay. And I get that. I do.
Yeah.
But I do miss doing it. Again, now, like I told you earlier, I'm in a position where I can't. So I'm doing this, and I'm promoting bands and businesses and events and just having a ball with this. Let's drift back to Cosmic Paradigm and tell me more about that.
Yeah. So, well, in short, let's see here. Cosmic Paradigm was what it was the material that either Gira, it wouldn't fit Gira, or it wouldn't have fit pretty much any of the other bands that I played for at the time. And I just kind of kept it to myself and just kind of, you know, sat on it, critiqued it here and there, changed some stuff here and there. Like it definitely was a long process, but you know, and there were some times where I was pretty frustrated where it was like, man, I wish I could just record this now. I wish I can just do this. And at that time, you know, I was still learning. YouTube was barely a thing. And even if it was a thing back in 2000, I wouldn't know where to like even start to like know what to look up to help me aid myself in to what it is now. But well, the one weird thing about when I got into metal, so when I discovered like the Metallica, Megadeth, Iron Maiden, I started discovering I wanted more of that Maiden sound, but a little bit faster, a little bit heavier. So then I discovered power metal. I started discovering like the Yngwie Malmsteen, the Iced Earth, Blind Guardian, Dragon Force, all those bands. I loved all that stuff, and it was weird because all the bands I was in, most of the members, they weren't really into that, and I get it. It's kind of one of those things where it's just like, yeah, you got the Megadeth or the Slayer, and then right next door you got the Poison, and you know what I mean, like the glam band and stuff like that. I kind of feel like they kind of saw me as like, oh, I'm that dude that's into the, you know, Dungeons and Dragons and high pitched vocal stuff like that. Oh, that's not brutal. Like, what I looked at it more as like a guitar player, as a musician, because you know all those dudes just wail and shred on guitar, and even the vocals and the chorus, you know, Ronnie James Dio and stuff like that, the high pitched stuff. I loved it. I always got, you know, goosebumps listening to that stuff, and I think the main thing that attracted me to it was just like, now it's kind of weird. I've never really cared much for like lyrics in most songs. Like when I listen to a song, I don't care what it is, even if it's like rap nowadays or even electronic. Like if they're talking about like how much money they made or how many hoes, you know, they got, it's like I could care less what they're talking about. I literally listen to the vocals and the music as like, you know, an instrument. Like if the beat's good, if your bars and your lines are good and it flows good, I'll like it. If not, if I feel like you said a word or you did something weird with auto tune to like make it stand out and it doesn't work out for me, no, hit skip, or I'll just, it ain't my thing. But the power metal was the one thing that was like, you know, I would actually read this stuff because growing up, I loved sci-fi, I love fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think the only VHS cassette I had at the time, living with my grandmother and my father and all that stuff back in California, I think we just had Star Wars: A New Hope on VHS that was pretty much rewinded like every time I got done watching. It was that one, and then E.T. Yeah, and it was crazy. So I know I'm kind of going everywhere right now, but I guess you could say even for like how Cosmic became what it was, the whole like space, sci-fi, fantasy kind of themed, and mixing in even like, the metal with the ambience, with, even the strings and stuff like that. Like my dad, thankfully, again, influencing me with like the violins and the classical music and Hearts of Space. He would be like, oh, you never heard of this movie, Justin? You got to watch this. I'm like, what is this? He's like, you never seen Blade Runner? I go, no. Here, watch Blade Runner. I watch it instantly. One of my favorite movies. He's like, Buck Rogers. You never watched Buck Rogers? I'm like, no. Show me that. And then Dune.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, in fact, this recent album, Apkalu, was actually like heavily inspired by Dune. Heavily. So like, what's another good one? Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai. Like all those wild, crazy sci-fi fantasy movies. Just, and I was always like, so that's where again my brain developed of going, okay, I love this power metal stuff. I love the cool Dungeons and Dragons type thing they're singing about or talking about, But then there were some times where I would be listening to it and go, okay, if this song's really about how like 5,000 orcs or demons or whatever, escaping the bowels of hell to go fight mankind, that's not exactly how I kind of hear it.
Okay.
So, I mean, again, my perspective from it. So then, yeah, so Cosmic, I was like, well, how can I still have that really cool, like Hans Zimmer style, like epic vibe with strings or, pads or ambience, but still drive the mood across with like heavy guitars, so on and so forth. And that's just a weird thing on why I believe like to this. I mean, I could be wrong like this, but nobody that's known about Cosmic Paradigm for as long as it's existed, that's listened to it. Not too many people have actually kind of come up and asked me like, hey, are you looking for like members to like play this stuff? Because this stuff's amazing. And I know it's still like not really too well known by like some standards. Like it's like Cosmic isn't nearly as widely known, at least as far as like analytics go, in comparison to Oppressor God. How Oppressor God like grew as big as it was from what it was is just kind of mind blowing to all of us. But yeah, it's really weird because I go through different genres. I mean, I don't know if you've listened to the album yet, but
I have. So have my neighbors. I liked it. They didn't.
Awesome. So I'm sure you've noticed how like the progression of like the mood changes from the beginning of the album to the middles and stuff like that. Like I've always pictured music somewhat, even like throughout songs, as like stories and like moods and feels and like scene changes and stuff like that. The whole like kind of a classic style of writing where like, you repeat chorus twice or three times, get the hook going, this and that. Like, it's cool. It works out when it works out. But after a while, it's like you're on your 14th album and it's like, I know exactly what to expect from these guys.
Yeah.
And no disrespect to them. If that's what they want to do, and if that's what's bringing home the money, more power to them.
Yeah. It's music is weird. I was oh God. Okay. Let me dig back into my past for just a couple of seconds.
Yeah, go for it.
Until my sophomore year of high school, all I listened to was classical and jazz. Okay. Somebody brings me, I don't know if you've heard of it or not, but Rick Wakeman's Journey to the Center of the Earth, the original. Okay. No, it's an album.
Okay, no, I have not heard of it. No.
Okay, well, Rick Wakeman, if you know him, is considered to be one of the keyboard gods of all time.
Okay.
So it was him, a symphony orchestra, a chamber choir, and a 5-piece band called the English Rock Ensemble. And it was a beautiful blend of rock and classical, telling the story of the book. And at that point, as a sophomore in high school, I discovered rock. Yeah, I was a little slow. But I still do the classical. I still do the jazz. My current real love is symphonic metal.
Okay.
Which is a bit more symphonic than your material.
Yeah.
And it usually has a mezzo-soprano female lead vocalist, but Evanescence, Nightwish, that kind of stuff.
Gotcha.
That's what I'm listening to mostly right now on my own time. But yeah, I got into the rock thing a little bit late, especially for a kid growing up in the 70s. I mean, you know, all of this stuff was around me and I missed it all.
I feel the same way with a lot of the stuff that, you know, I'm even discovering now. I'll be listening to albums and be like, hey, Dalton, or you ever heard of this album? I'm like, yeah, this was back in like 2005. And I'm like, they were doing this stuff in 2005 and I didn't know about this.
It's it's kind of hard to get a good world view or even a country view of a musical style, any style. Which is, you know, again, why I'm doing this type of show, this station, these interviews, is, you know, people need to hear this stuff. And, you know, a lot of them, you know, they're not going to get airplay. They're not going to get, you know, big contracts or luck into super gigs.
Mhm.
But maybe I can give them a nudge from my desk here and get people hearing them and you know, help get the ball rolling and things falling together, because there is so much talent around here.
Yeah, it's kind of, it's surprising.
Well, it's blown the guy that taught me to shoot video had 3 Emmys on his fireplace, retired from ABC TV, ABC Wild World of Sports, and all of this kind of fun stuff. Bud Harry Holland taught me my video. He left us a number of years ago, but you know, here's a guy in Bullhead City with 3 videography Emmys sitting on his mantle, and you know, there's talent all over the area. The problem is a lot of people don't know the other people. And so let's bring this all together and let's share. You know, I've got, you know, 4 top-notch shooters I can call for a project, and I've done that. Hey, man, I can't shoot this, I'm booked. You want this? And people are like, "What do you mean? Do I want this? What's wrong with the gig? Nothing. I'm booked. So you're offering it to me?" I'm like, I don't do the competition thing.
Yeah, so you got a network.
Yeah, exactly. We're all in this together. We're trying to get our art out there. We're trying to make a buck. We're trying to buy more gear. I mean,
Yeah.
And if we work together, then, you know, we can all get a little farther forward. And, you know, I just don't do the competition thing. It's not in my nature.
I love that. I love that. Yeah. Nobody gets anywhere with that.
Yeah. And I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong. And I've done a number of metal shows in the Kingman area. And it seems to me that the local metal bands are almost family. Everybody comes to everybody else's gigs. They hang out. You know, I mean, you know, it's badass.
Yeah. And yeah, you know, that is like, yeah, you're absolutely right. And I love it. And like, just to think that if there was a show booked this weekend that I know for a fact I can hit up, you know, 1 or 2 people and it can get done. And it's like, you know, hey, can we use your PA speakers? Hey, would you be able to run sound? If not, if we use your speakers, can I get, you know, so-and-so to run sound? And we've all known each other, and like, yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, especially, and it's super surprising too. And I didn't really realize it until, you know, the metal shows here in Kingman. Believe it, it's still like mind-boggling to me. Like seeing all the old metal shows at Sporty's and even at Blackbridge, it's like we've had Dalton, actually, he's the one that's booked the majority, if not all, the touring acts that have come through this town. And numerous times have those people come through here, played a show here and go, this was the wildest show of our entire tour. And I'm talking like they just came back from like Florida, New Mexico, Tennessee, Texas, and they're just heading back home to Cali. And this was like, you know, one quick, you know, dive bar or whatever.
Yeah.
And it was like Thursday night, big mosh pit, made the most amount of money they made on merch in one night. Like it's just, it's crazy. And when it first happened, I was like, okay, maybe it's just a fluke. Maybe it's because this town is so small. When when anything happens here, it was just an opportunity to go, oh, cool, a metal show. Now it's like the past recent shows at Sporties before COVID and stuff like that happened. Yeah, I'd be moshing with people, or I'd see people come in there I've never seen before. And, we'd be talking to them. I overhear conversations going where they'd be like, yeah, I came down from Prescott, or I came down from Phoenix to come see this. I was kind of wondering why they didn't play so-and-so, this venue or this bar in Phoenix, but like, man, this place is crazy. I never would have thought Kingman, Arizona would be this wild. And it was like, trust me, neither did we. And I mean, like looking at it now, actually my fiance and I, we just got back from a show from Phoenix at the Nile Theater. I'm not going to speak exactly what negative things I have to say about that venue or that establishment, but like the amount of stuff that we weren't allowed to do in that place or have in that place, or even just like, it was just like, man, looking at Kingman, if even in like an eighth of what people have done, whether it be moshing or like we were moshing with glass with like glass cups breaking everywhere, water tears spilled, like coffee spilled everywhere, people are still slipping and eating it. But at the same time, it's like the community, at least for here, was so like it wasn't it wasn't like, oh, somebody gonna clean this up. Like, no, you get like two people meeting to the bartender, like, hey, I need a mop. And the band would still be playing, and to be people moshing, and it's like we're sweeping up broken glass or whatever and mopping it up while there's a show going on.
Yeah.
And it's not like you got to tell people like, hey, get out of the way, we're trying to clean this up. It's like immediately, it's not even that they get out of the way, they'll immediately start helping cleaning it up. Like, I've never seen that anywhere. I've never seen that some sort of level of camaraderie anywhere. And there's people that have come down here from Vegas witnessing shows going, I've never seen anything like this at like our local bar or anything like that. Like, everybody's kind of like entitled of like, oh, well, this seems like a bar problem. Like, we'll let them handle it. Where it's like, I mean, what was it? Curse the Sun. I don't know if you've ever seen or heard of those guys out of Lake Havasu. Derek Ryan.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, Derek Ryan. He's from there. He founded Curse the Sun. He always comes down to all the metal shows, and that guy's like, he was even at the recent show up in Phoenix that we were at, and like, again, you don't need to ask. It's just like, this is just the right thing to do. There's been so many times, because you've been in Sporties where it gets so wild in there, like you can't even barely walk to get to the back patio without getting caught in the pit.
Where my light trees are dancing on the floor.
Yeah. Well, it's like there's so many times where bands would be playing there that's never played there before, and they're not ready for that in-your-face interaction with the crowd, to where it's like, I've seen him hold like microphones stands that have been falling over, where he would hold it for like their entire set, because they know they can't fix it right now because he's playing guitar while he's doing vocals or whatnot. And yeah, I've never seen anyone else do that. It's kind of like you see stuff fail or break all the time, and you just see people up front just look like, oh, well, that sucks. It's like, well, you're not going to pick it up? Like, what? You're going to let them walk through the crowd and grab it? Like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah.
It's just weird. I mean, I'm not talking down from like, the bars or the venues in bigger cities and this and that, but it's like, in a town like this, where it's just like, we can't really afford to have that one stupid mishap of like, of something stupid going on, to where it's like, all right, no more shows.
Yeah.
Too many fights, or this band, they just had their $2,000 laptop stolen or broken. That's almost happened before too, where somebody flew in one of the band's rack mount cases where their laptop was on for all their and it, like, that whole thing was tipping over and falling down, and some guy right there by where you guys would set up your booth, he saw it and just ran up there and grabbed it. So I was like, cool. Like, at least people are paying attention, not just standing there like, oh, well, that sucks.
Yeah. There are good people out there, man. And it's so refreshing to see some days.
It really is. It really is. And like, and surprisingly in a good way, that's actually here in Kingman. Like, unfortunately, I had a bad experience. Actually, yeah, I don't know if you know this about when we first met, actually, at the Bullhead show.
Yeah.
What was the name of that place? Lazy Harry's, I believe.
Yep.
So I don't know if you knew this. Unfortunately, at least for me, speaking for myself, I won't speak for Oppressor God. I will never play at that establishment ever again. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, after I played that show, I know there was that Shriven band played as well, and I believe they didn't have a bass player at the time. And out of all the bands there that night, I think only there was like one or two bands that actually had a full, complete, setup: vocalist, guitar player, bass player, drummer. Well, unfortunately, the day after that show, I guess he was the entertainment manager of Lazy Harry's. He wrote like this 2 or 3 paragraph, like super rant about how he just finds it like super, funny and like stupid that people would even like consider playing. What kind of band plays without a bass player? Like, what's this whole new thing now where you don't even need a band and you just like gonna go up there with a laptop and just practice guitar on stage and this and that. Like I'm hard skinned, like it didn't hurt my feelings, but at the same time I look at it like, well, we made you guys a lot of money on a weekday.
Yeah.
And last time I checked, people came out from Kingman, Havasu, and local Bullhead to your bar to witness this. And I had people buy merch off me, and I've had people that liked what I did. It wasn't forced or nothing. I'm not trying to like say like, oh yeah, I'm better than your opinion, but it's still like, I just didn't feel like, man, if that's really how your view is and you're really gonna like talk down, especially on local bands like that, it's like, I don't know, like, why would you waste your time? Like if it was something where we damaged something or like we were a little bit too rowdy and your bar got damaged or things got stolen, I would understand. But
yeah,
it's like we just came there, played, hung out, bought your beer on a weekday, had other people come in there, buy your beer, and now you're gonna write a 2-3 paragraph super negative review about all the bands because we're playing with computers and without bass players. It's just that kind of stuff like irks me. It goes because, as you said, you and I know the camaraderie in the places that would like, truly be thankful and enjoy that environment and that whole thing. So it's like, especially in a small town like that, it's like, come on, like why would you do that?
Well, and to the best of my knowledge, Lazy's hasn't reopened yet.
Oh, really? Were they shut down during COVID? Or prior?
Yeah, during COVID, I don't know. I've heard numerous rumors, which I will not share.
That's fine.
But yeah, it never reopened yet. As far as I know, I haven't seen anything, scheduled there, and I follow them on Facebook, and it's pretty much been quiet.
Yeah, interesting.
Well, band's got to take care of the venue. The venue's got to take care of the band.
Mm-hmm.
There's a relationship there, and so it goes. I mean, and he was bringing in some kind of, I wouldn't say major acts, but some bigger acts, on off days, catching them between like LA and Phoenix, or and had some really, they had a reggae show there that we did the lighting and sound for, and it was wall to wall bodies. Nice. One band had literally, you've been to Lazy's, 14 people on that stage.
Wow.
You got, guitar players sitting on top of their amps because there's no place else for them to be. Drummer tucked in the corner, can't move his elbows out because he's going to beat a wall. And I mean, that stage was just full of people. And it was just a kick-ass show. But man, 14 people up there. I'm just kind of like, sure you guys don't want to move down off the edge of the stage onto the floor a little bit? No, man, we're good. Okay.
You and Paul ran lighting and sound for that?
Yeah.
Oh man, did he have a mixed nightmare or what?
Yeah, that. Mm-hmm. And wow. I think there was 3 acts that night, and multiple act gigs are pretty hard on sound people, not so much on lighting people, but and then you've got 10, 15 minutes, between acts to get everybody's gear off and everybody's gear on and everything mic'd up and, getting ready to do it all again. And yeah, they had fun. There's sometimes it's good to be the lighting guy.
Yeah. Man, 14. I could not imagine.
It was crazy.
Woo. Yeah, I couldn't even. My brain
It was crazy.
And yeah, to think that the last show I seen in Phoenix, the sound guys couldn't even figure out how to mic a simple, like, I don't even know what it was, 7-piece drum kit.
Oh man.
Yeah, it was bad. I'm not gonna talk too much trash about that place out of respect, but there was just some things where I know people, Paul being one of them, and somebody else within the metal community here that would have been able to like simply figure out sound.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's insane. I mean, one of the bands that I saw, like, they've been around for a long time. Like, they're professional. They've toured Europe and stuff. And I understand things happen, but it's like, I was telling my fiance this. I go, this is the longest setup time I have ever seen a band of this caliber ever have to take. And I know it wasn't their fault. Have to take to set up. And it was literally like the sound guy could not figure out how to run, because they didn't have a bass player. They ran bass tracks in the background.
Okay.
They couldn't figure out how to run bass tracks and like backing synths, 2 separate tracks. They just couldn't figure out how to do it. And I believe, like, I'm not sure like entirety of this, but if I was willing to bet money on it, the last 2 songs of their set, I'm pretty sure they didn't even have bass tracks running. It just felt so hollow in comparison to the beginning of their set. I was like, man, what are these guys doing? And I'm like, man, I know 2 guys right now, if they were here right now, they would have figured this out in like 5 minutes or less, instantly.
Yeah, and get on with the day. We did lighting and sound for Another Journey, and please don't even think for a moment that I'm a Journey fan, because I'm not. It was a good gig. The pay was good, but the drum kit had 14 mics and a sub mix. The drum kit was all sub mix down first, and then that was run, into the main PA. And yeah, I'm like, 14 mics on a drum kit. I've seen less than 14 mics on a band.
Yeah. Like, what are we doing here? Playing a gig or recording?
Well, they're one of those
like nitpicky.
Yeah, nitpicky, but I guess they're like the #1 Journey tribute band out there. They travel everywhere. And they did justice to the music. Again, I don't care for that music, but it was a fun gig. But 14 mics and a drum set, man, that was just insanity.
Yeah, that sounds a bit much.
Yeah. So, anything coming up for you in the way of live gigs?
For Cosmic, no. For OG, again, we don't have a drummer right now, and we've considered, like, we've had show and tour opportunities offered to us, but we kind of declined them now just to finish up this EP and get recording done out of the way. And because, I mean, at this point now, the way it's looking, we got to hire a drummer to do live shows anyway. It'd be kind of a waste to hire one that would come out all the way from like out of state just to do one gig, Yeah. So unless it was convenient for them, but yeah, other than that, no, nothing for me right now. Believe it or not, it's funny because I actually got to relearn some of those songs on that album. I've just been spending so much time just recording them and getting them mixed and all that stuff. But again, it's all fun. But yeah, this year's pretty much kind of booked because I'm getting married October 8th. So
congratulations.
Thank you. So a lot of time, money, and effort is going to be getting into that. And
absolutely,
I can't believe it's already almost May. So I'm just like, great, this thing's creeping up on me so quick. But yeah, no, but there is going to be a local show at Blackbridge Cinco de Mayo. I don't know if I could plug that in right here.
Do it up.
Yeah. So there are going to be 3 bands from the Artisan Era. The Artisan Era is a label based out of Nashville, Tennessee. We know a couple bands have come through here through Kingman, Inanimate Existence, Warforged, for example.
Warforged, I saw.
Yeah. Yeah, great group of guys. Like, the label is, the people who run the label are super, awesome people. Actually, my fiance and I were actually personal friends with all of them. We've just seen them play in Phoenix. But yeah, anyway, so Cinco de Mayo at Black Bridge Brewery here in Kingman, Arizona. We got a band out of Riverside, California called Exit Existence. They actually just played here recently with who did they play here with? Sorry, I've messed that up. I can't think of it. They were just here. In fact, Exit Existence has two members from a band that has played in Kingman, Who Stole the Cookie from the Cookie Jar. So if anybody remembers that band, it's the drummer and vocalist of that band's project now. And the three artists and era bands coming up here is going to be Flub, FLUB from Sacramento, California. Symbolic, I think they're from Riverside. I'm not too sure. I know the band members are from varying states, but Symbolic, SYMBOLIK, not C. Their guitar player, Damon Koenig, actually did a guest solo on my album. So it'd be cool seeing him. And we got Singularity out of Phoenix coming down and play. And Singularity, they actually came and played Kingman shows like way, way back in the day, back before even Oppressor God was even a band. And yeah, that's like one of the Singularity is one of the few bands that I've actually seen from like almost bottom all the way up to where they're at now. Mm-hmm. So it's super cool seeing, you know, that level of progression and just seeing friends succeed, you know?
Yes.
So they're all going to be coming down. Singularity is going to be headlining, I believe. Doors open at 6 p.m. No cover charge. It's free. But cool. It is. Yeah. I'm not sure if it's a 21 or only show. I know it's Black Bridge. I'm not too sure. I have seen kids come there before, but then again, I don't know if anything's changed. I believe Black Bridge is under new ownership as of a couple of months ago, or sometime within this year, I believe. So okay. I don't know if policies have changed or not. But yeah, I think Cinco de Mayo is on a Thursday this year.
Give me 1 second. Hang on, just a...
Yeah.
And come on, Mike. You're right. You pegged it. It's Thursday.
Oh, Thursday. All right. It's worth coming out, and it's worth calling off work the next day if you get a little too. Yeah.
Okay. Let's plug your new project. Tell me about it. Where can I get it? Well, I've got it, but where can it be got? Where can we get your merch for the time being? Give me all of that for my listeners.
Yeah. So Cosmic Paradigm, you guys can follow me on Facebook, Instagram at Cosmic Paradigm Official. I have a YouTube channel as well, Cosmic Paradigm Official. You can do full album stream of both my new album, Apkallu, and my first album, The Catalyst, which is all instrumental.
I have.
Yep. I have full playthroughs of all the songs off The Catalyst. I am planning on doing more playthroughs. I'm looking forward to that for this new album, Apkallu. I got merch available on Bandcamp. I got shirts up there, long sleeves, poster flags. I'm planning on getting more merch on there, but unfortunately, as you guys may know, with the shipping delay and all the shortage of goods around the world right now, just getting a hoodie right now is kind of a pain to get. So I will be planning on updating that, and any purchase of any merchandise, whether it be t-shirt, poster flag, or anything, will give you a free download with Apkallu on it. I am planning on doing physicals. I'm kind of waiting right now because the new album is not up on your mainstream social media mainstream streaming platforms such as Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music. It is being processed right now. Hopefully it should be out by May, hopefully first week of May. And I'm trying to figure out on getting physical CDs done as well, if there's any interest in that. And yeah, that's about all I got for that.
Cool,
like,
man.
Subscribe, follow. So yeah, real quick. So before I end this, I feel really bad because I know we were jumping back and forth everywhere. I kind of want to give a special thanks and shout out to my best friend from, since 4th grade and since moving to Kingman, Arizona. His name is Max Thompson. So believe it or not, Max Thompson was the first friend and musician who got me up and started playing guitar before I even owned a guitar. He just handed me his acoustic. And this guy is a reincarnation of some blues player that I do not know of, because in fourth grade, okay, not fourth grade, let's just say middle school, but even then, before we were 16, he knew who Buddy Guy was, Jack of Astorius, like all the old school 70s, 80s. Like, this guy's a reincarnation, and he lives in Nashville, Tennessee right now. He's a blues player. I don't know what he's doing now, but I know he's playing a couple gigs down there. But yeah, the guy, he's like a blue, like, even besides just a genre, just as a musicianship level of knowledge himself, like, this guy is just insane. And he actually, like, my first genre of learning anything in guitar was blues, like pentatonics, all that stuff. So he showed me, again, like all like the Buddy Guys, Jimi Hendrix, who else? Like all those early 60s, 70s guys. He got me into Joe Bonamassa.
Oh yeah.
Like, yeah. So special shout out to him. In fact, like, yeah, I probably wouldn't, he further even helped me advance on the right path of like learning how to play the guitar. So big shout out to him. Hopefully I'm going to see him soon.
That's very cool. All right, man, let's unless you got something else to hit me with, let's wrap this up and call it a night, and I'm going to go find my oxygen.
Yeah, let's wrap it up, Mike.
All right, man. Thank you very much.
Hey, thank you for inviting me on here.
Okay, have a great night.
You as well.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.